It was really weird. I was asleep on the couch, and then all of a sudden I could kind of see this thing, like, it kind of tested, like it tried to get on the property, and nothing happened. And then it tried to get, like, in the parking, it walked onto the parking lot where I parked my car, the parking area at the house that I was living in, and see what would happen. And then came in the house, and nothing happened. And then came in the room that I was sleeping on the couch, and I'm seeing this all in my mind as I was asleep.
Yeah.
And then it just basically tried to get on top of me, and then I woke up, and I couldn't talk, and I couldn't move. And as soon as I said Jesus in my head, I could move.
That's amazing.
And I was like, wow.
Yeah.
I did have, now that I think about it, I did have, for a while, long before I knew Chris or anybody like that, I did have an experience where I was living in this house with these folks who were Mormons. And the second or third night that I was there, I remember having this really, really, really vivid dream, to the point where it didn't seem like it was a dream, where I was asleep and I woke up and there was this like snarling demonic thing in my face, and I couldn't move, and it was really scary, obviously. And then it tried to get inside me, and then it couldn't. It stayed there and was snarling and stuff, and then I said Jesus, like in my head in the dream, and then I woke up in the room, and I was like, what just happened? Because the dream seemed more real than the
awakening.
The awakening, even being awake, yeah. So that was weird. That always sort of stuck in the back of my head. Up until now, those were some things that happened. But I didn't, it was just something where I just saw that there was a need, and Chris just kept pestering me about it, and so I started doing something with it. And, I helped some people, and some people didn't want to take the advice, and I learned a lot of stuff, and then just got too busy to really do much more with it. So
yeah, my wife just had an experience with that, and
see.
She had a few experiences in like a month span, and it's
Mm-hmm.
well, the interesting thing about it, I thought, Tom, was that in all of the dreams there was an issue like revolving around our kids, and that's obviously the thing she cares the most about, Yeah. So it's interesting that a demon would be taunting her, ability to watch after her children. So,
Mm-hmm.
Did you have anything like that? People like basically like their worst fears or whatever would come out during that time, or?
It seems like, for better or for worse, the ones that I can really always seem to remember are the ones that were like really, really crazy, really out of the ordinary. Like I remember a couple of them. One was a guy who said, like, he went to sleep and he got in a fight with a bunch of demons in his dream, but then he woke up and prayed to have nunchucks in his dream, and then he had nunchucks in his dream and was like whooping butt with these nunchucks, and then the demons came back with swords, and he woke up and then prayed for a machine gun and was like driving around in a Jeep with a machine gun killing demons, and wanted to know if that was sleep paralysis.
Wow.
Yeah, and that was one I think I just didn't really respond to be honest. And then there was another guy who emailed me, very serious, who had been let go from the Army because he had schizophrenia, and the schizophrenia was he said sort of started about the same time that he became like a practicing witch, and then got saved and dropped all the witchcraft stuff, but the schizophrenia remained, and he just sort of wanted to know what my opinion was on it. And I said, I'm not a doctor or anything, and the things that he would have was just epic. He remembered having he would like he remember telling me about driving into the drive-thru of a Burger King to get a hamburger, and having the drive-thru speaker like start swearing at him, and the whole world was just screaming, and there were bright lights and everything all over the place, and he would just hold on to the steering wheel until it went away. And
sorry that my baby's here. Sorry.
Okay, no problem. So he emailed me about all this stuff, and I said, I'm not a doctor, but that to me sounds like a spiritual thing.
Yeah.
And I told him next time it happens, command us to leave in the name of Jesus, and kind of gave him some very detailed instructions. So he said, okay, and I never heard from him. I didn't hear from him for about 6 months, and then I got another email from him saying, hey, the stuff that you said totally worked. It turns out it was spiritual. I'm healed. And that was it, So that was a pretty wild thing. It was totally debilitating thing. So that was cool. That was helpful.
You still talk to these people at all? Do people email you occasionally and thank you, or just, hey, do you have any online kind of friendships from this?
No, it was really pretty much one-off.
Okay.
It was, they'd email me, and I'd tell them this is what you need to do, and then if it didn't work, they'd email back, and we'd talk about it some more. But if it did work, I'd never hear from them back, except for maybe 6 months later. They would just say, "Oh, hey, just so you know, things are working good now. Thanks." But it's pretty mellow. It's not really it wasn't something that they were, oh my gosh, I have to tell everybody about this and all that sort of stuff. It was, I figured if I was sort of set free like this, I'd probably be a little bit more talkative about it, but,
right.
maybe not. There was it was just a lot of one-off stuff. People would write in, I would respond, and if things went well, then good. If not, then not. Then they'd write back and say, it didn't work! And then we'd talk about it some more and usually find a resolution.
Mm-hmm. You'd kind of, I think it was on Future Quake, you'd said that Joe Jordan kind of opened you up to this too a little bit with the CE4 research that he had been doing?
Yeah, he was really good. He was really good at that. I was really moved by his interview. That was one of the most moving interviews that I had done. Here's this guy kind of treading into these weird, strange waters, and he's helping people, at the risk of being really ostracized, and it was good. It was a very positive thing. Largely from that, I think that interview really caused me to that was the spark of the conversation between Chris White and I.
Mm-hmm.
Talked about wanting to do a website and helping people. He said, well, you should check out sleep paralysis, because that's way bigger than alien abduction, and it's almost the same thing. And so I did.
Yeah. So I like hearing about the kind of paths with that, especially in correlation with what's just happened with my wife and the interview we just did with Chris. So I appreciate you kind of telling me some of those stories. We'll move to the present a little bit, and then we'll look at the future, and then we'll probably wrap things up a little bit.
Okay.
So you'd said, you're involved with these missions and the church. So tell us about your marriage. How'd you meet and all that stuff? Oh,
well, my wife is, I found the most wonderful woman in the world, and I married her. and she's very, very, she's just super intelligent, super beautiful, super helpful, and she's just great, man. She's wonderful. We met. She actually listened to Future Quake and heard about it and said, you know what? I might visit that church. And so she visited the church, and her and I met, and she was just visiting the church, and then ended up moving here to Nashville after about a year and a half. And one thing kind of led to another, and we ended up dating, and then getting married, and then linked us up here to kind of the present day.
That was pretty recent, right?
Yeah, we got married about 3 months ago. She's absolutely wonderful, love of my life. I've had conversation with folks about does the Lord have somebody special for you, or is it all just kind of like statistics?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of narrow it down. and then these are the top 3 people, and then you just marry the one you like the most, or is there really actually somebody out there that's specifically for you? And I felt that like there was probably somebody really specifically out there for me, especially if nothing else, it was somebody specifically out there for me that was better than all the other ones.
Yeah.
You know, she may not have been made specifically with me in mind, but she was better than everybody else. And
awesome.
The first time I met my wife, I remember the Lord being very clear and saying, "That's your wife." And that turned out to be 100% true. You know, I almost thought it was a little bit odd because she was just passing through and then moved away. And then a year and a half later moved back, you know. So when she moved back, it really caused me to take notice. You know, it's like, oh, well, maybe the Lord was really right about this. And that's just a wonderful thing, you know.
Yeah.
She has an 8-year-old son who he and I are buddies, and you know, I try my best to act like an adult around, and sometimes do a good job, and sometimes maybe not as good of a job. I try and help them and be a leader to the family, and you know, all within the confines of, you know, biblical, scriptural marriage, if you will.
Yeah.
And really be a man, you know.
Yeah.
You know, I always lived in apartments, 2 and 3 bedroom apartments, and she owned a very large house, which I moved into when we got married. You know, one of the things for me is I'm still learning how to be like a good, you know, groundskeeper handyman, you know.
Aren't we all?
Yeah, that's a tough one for me, man. I'm still like, you know, she's very accepting and sees that I'm, you know, trying hard for the most part. But, you know, like I get about once a mow, I'll get a riding lawnmower stuck somewhere in the grass, and you know, I have to like get the truck and pull it out, you know.
Yep.
And she's, you know, she doesn't say anything about it, like, you know, what are you doing? You're destroying our lawnmower, you know. She doesn't get on me about it. And for me, it's a thing that I'm still learning how to do. Be the head man, head groundskeeper.
Sure, yeah. There's definitely an adjustment.
Yeah.
that takes place. I mean, I'm 5 years into my marriage, and it's a adventure every day. So.
Mm-hmm. Well, good to hear.
But yeah, like on that tip, I think the best advice I ever heard. I think it's probably just a quote that somebody handed down, but somebody said to me, you know, if you put her first, if you're always thinking about her first, and then she's doing the same thing, how can you go wrong?
Yeah. Well, we are both very. I mean, my wife is one of the godliest people I know. I knew that I had a catch when she told me about a stressful situation she went through, and rather than go see a counselor or a therapist or anything for grief issues, she said my therapy was to lay on the floor and cry out to the Lord for 2 hours a day.
Huh.
I was like, wow, okay.
There's some wisdom.
Yeah, that's pretty serious right there.
Definitely.
You know? I was like, okay, I have got the super wife.
Definitely. Definitely, and you know, she's not just a strong believer, but the fact that she listened to, you know, what you guys were kind of, you know, doing with Future Quake and coming to realizations yourself. I mean, she was probably learning with you guys to a degree. And what's cool is like you probably have a very similar worldview because of all that, which is not typical in a lot of marriages. So,
no, we very much have a very, very similar worldview, and that's a big help. That is a big help. We try and pray regularly together. We pray together in the mornings almost every day before I go to work.
Wow.
And that's a helpful thing. She's just everything a serious Christian could want, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And you don't think each other are crazy, you know?
No, that's very helpful too. It would be hard to kind of